Hey guys, my name is Jay Wilson. I'm a freelance consultant through my company, Onyx Reporting. Today we're going to learn how to build a date dimension. Now, before I try to convince you the why, I wanted to let you know where the inspiration from this tutorial came from. User 016095 said they're having challenges calculating a period to date sales beast mode. And this is the beast mode that they posted. Now, if you've ever seen a beast mode like this before, you need a date dimension. If you're doing anything based off of weeks, if you're doing any kind of comparison that spans multiple years and you have a custom rollup, maybe you have an offset calendar year. Yes, Domo has tools that will allow you to build that into the fiscal calendar in Analyzer. They do have period over period analysis functions, but you quickly run into limitations. And that's fine because Domo can't possibly build something that works for every single company. You need a date dimension. It's a core foundational piece of building a proper BI data mart, data warehouse type thing. So I'm going to show you in this tutorial today, step by step, one step at a time, how to build a date dimension based on weeks using Magic ETL 2.0. You can use Magic ETL 1.0. You can do this in MySQL and you can do this in Redshift, but 2.0 I have found to be by far the easiest way to get this done. And I say that having built date dimensions in Magic 1.0, Redshift, and MySQL because 2.0 is a new beta feature. So stick around. We'll go through it step by step. I'll talk you through some caveats that you need to be aware of. And at the end of this, you're going to look like a rock star to your IT department because you speak their language. Our approach is going to be as follows. We're going to use a web form for defining the start of a fiscal year. And then we're going to use Magic to dynamically calculate the end of the fiscal year. Not too complicated. The next step will be we'll create one row per day in a fiscal year and then calculate the fiscal week that it's a part of. Now, for those of you who are not using financial calendars or don't have like an offset calendar year that starts like in July or something, you might say, but Jay, I just need to do weeks. I don't need all of the rest that you're talking about. The thing about financial weeks or organizing your data by weeks is what happens at the end of the calendar year, because the new year could start halfway through a week. And so technically, there's business logic around, does January 1st fall into week 52 of last year? And sometimes December 28th falls into week 1 of 2020 of the following year. And it's super hard building that logic into beast modes. That's why we're building the state dimension. Stay with me. It's going to be great. The last thing we're going to do in our beast modes is we're going to define fiscal periods. And being careful to avoid the language of months, because depending on what type of organization or what department you work in, you might easily have a 13 period year. So in the financial department, it's very common to have a 13th month for end of year transactions. How do I accommodate that in my date dimension? Alternatively, if I'm using a 445 retail calendar or a 454 retail calendar, how do I treat the years that have 53 weeks without building crazy beast modes? We're going to talk about all that today. So I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. My goal is 45 minutes. We'll see what happens. That's what we're going to do. Let's get started. Here is the final ETL. We're going to build that today. And it looks scary, but it's really not. This is the first row of work where we're going to calculate the start and end of our fiscal year. If we're going to use a web form, not if, we are going to use a web form as a baseline. Technically, we can delete the number of weeks column, and just use the year start. And then we're going to derive the year end. But if you wanted to, you could just add the year end column here, and then you could kind of skip these steps. But I'm going to show it to you from like the minimum amount of configuration from your web form, because I want to show you some cool functionality in terms of like how to use Magic. And then also, I know people are lazy, and I want not people are lazy. I want to minimize the number of mistakes people can make. That's terrible, Jay. People are not lazy. People are not lazy. But I do want to minimize the number of mistakes. Ooh, I should just start this recording over again, but we're not. However, we're going to blow all of this ETL away. We're going to build it from scratch. Let's get going. So I did say the only columns that we need are the fiscal year and the year start. Now I'm going to abbreviate, or I'm going to just try to keep it clean from the get-go. So FY year number and FY year start. Okay, first thing I need to do is calculate the year end. Now to calculate the year end, I mean, this is almost a no-brainer, but right, it's just the value from the next row minus 1. Easy. To calculate the value from the next row, we're going to use a window function. And in this window function, all we're going to do is just say get the next row. That's all we're doing. It sounds scary. It's really FY year and date. We are going to use the lead function. And all we're going to do is say get the value from the next row. So offset 1. Piece of cake. I need to, if I'm using an offset function, I need to have an explicit sort order. So I'm going to use the start date sorted ascending, and I don't need a partition. Easy as pie. Let's run our preview. Zoom in. Oh, no, wrong button. Stop. Okay. So here we go. I'm in 2018. I get the value from the next row. So 31 2018 is equal to 31 2018, 30 2019, 30 2019, and here I have a null. I have a null because there is no next row. Now, in reality, I would just tell the client, hey, just go forward a couple years so you don't have to worry about this null. But because we're learning how to do Magic ETL better, faster, stronger, I will show you a method for handling the null row. We're going to use a formula tile. The formula tile is literally the best thing to come out of Domo in a while. It's so good. It's so good. What we're going to do is we're going to do an in-place adjustment. I'm going to fix the FY year end date, and I can tell I'm overwriting the existing column because of this change in the icon. And what do I want to do? I need an if null function. Yeah, if null, FY year end date. If that value is null, then I'm going to just add 364 days to the start date and then call that the end date. So to add dates, I can't do FY year start plus 364. This won't work. But there is a function called date add. Now, date add is the same as date subtract, and it's the same as add date, but I'm choosing date add because most SQL implementations will have an equivalent function. And so by most SQL equivalents, I mean MySQL and Redshift and Microsoft T-SQL all have the date add function. So date add. What are the arguments of the date add function? It accepts a date, the text interval an expression and the number of, and the unit. So, comma, interval, 364 days. What did I just say here? If this value is null, which is my last row, then take the start date and add 364 days. Let's just validate this and make sure. Guys, I love the add formula, and I love the ability to overwrite existing columns. This is so powerful. Be careful when you overwrite existing columns. I would say that's usually not great practice, but in this context. Cool. Now we're kind of good, except for the year doesn't end at the start of another date. I need to do year end -1. Right? So I need to alter my if null statement here. I need to take all of that. I need to write -1 day. I think that's true. Date, add this. I just need to subtract 1 day. Interval -1 day. Well, I'm feeling good about it, but I'm also feeling a little iffy about it. So we're going to do a date diff. We're going to calculate the number of days in fiscal year, and that's going to be the date diff. So subtract FY year end minus FY year start. Run preview. We also need this later, so good time to calculate. Take a quick look. So it's saying I've got 363 days here, and I've got 364 days. Now I know this math is right, but I think this 363 is wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter my date diff here. I'll just add 1. But because that will turn this into 365, right, because this is the result of my if null, I'm going to change this so that instead of adding 364 days, I add 363. So now I have 364 days in a year. And you're saying, Jay, there's 365 days in a year. Sorry if I didn't cover that. Hold on, let me pull up my calculator. Remember, the fiscal year that we're building is based off of weeks, and each week must have 7 days. So I can't do 365 divided by 7 because that's an uneven number of weeks. 364, however, divided by 7 is an even number of 52 weeks in a year. There must always be either 52 whole weeks in the year or 53 whole weeks in a year. So sometimes there will be 371 days in a year in a calendar that's based off of weeks. I don't think I showed this yet. This is the National Retail Federation's retail sales reporting and merchandising calendar using a 454. So a 454 means week. A 454 means the first month of the quarter has 4 weeks, the second month has 5 weeks, the third month has 4 weeks. That's a 454. Some companies operate on a 445. Doesn't matter. Point is, I'm showing you how to build that. At this point, we've done the first row in what I said we would get accomplished. We've defined the start and end date of our fiscal year. The next thing we need to do is create 1 row per day and calculate the fiscal week number. We need to generate 1 row per day. what I need to do is I need to generate 364 copies of this row. Now it would be super easy to do in Magic, or sorry, in SQL, because you'd say, oh, I just join on a date dimension on the days are between this and that. There is no such thing as join on a between clause in Magic. But if I have this that says how many times I want to copy this row, I can create this, the equivalent of a join on a between. I have a data set called One-to-Many. And what this is this is a dimension table that I've created, and I'll post the code if you ask me to. What it does is it has basically a countdown. So if I join on 2, then I would get the countdown 2, 1, 0. And if I join on 3, I would get the countdown on, 3, 2, 1, 0. If I join on 4, I get the countdown of 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. If I join on 364, I would get 1 row on a countdown to 364 to 0. Now there is no 0 with date. So I'm going to add a filter and ignore rows where the number contains a 0. Sorry, that's my business partner calling. Not now, I'm recording, Bertie. So it does not equal specific value. Good stuff. I can now take that and join it to my data set. I'm going to join on the days in the fiscal year are equal to the join column. Now it's throwing an error. It says the data types do not match. Over here, days in fiscal year are type integer, whereas my join column is of type floating decimal. One of the things I really appreciate about Magic 2.0, this is the second best feature of Magic 2.0. I can change the incoming data type and explicitly say must be of type integer. If it's not type, if it can't be converted or parsed into integer, I can replace the value with a null or a 0, or I can drop the row. That's super cool, especially if you have date data coming in from Excel. I was working with that yesterday where I had a date column and it wouldn't parse the date, and it would fail the data set. Sorry, it would fail the data flow. So by changing error handling here, I could define what it did with the rows that wouldn't convert. Super cool feature, but that's all. Now, the third coolest thing about Magic 2.0 is I can also make alterations to my table. I can say, hey, actually these column names are all fine, but in table B, I don't need the join column because the join column will be the same value as my days in fiscal year. So I'm going to drop that column. Also, instead of having a column called number, because that's confusing, I'm going to rename that to day in fiscal year. Awesome. Let's see what happens. Remember the goal. The goal is to generate 1 row per year, right? At this point, when I look at up here, at this point, I've got only 4 rows, and I want to have 1 row for each day in the year. So I need to duplicate this row 364 times. That's why I'm joining to this one-to-many table. In my join, I will now see the 103rd day, the 271st day. It doesn't sort it, which is a shame, but that's how it works. So I'm showing, I can demonstrate that this 1 row has been duplicated many, many, many times. To make previewing a little easier, I'm going to add a filter here. And we're just going to look at fiscal year 2020. run our preview one more time. Cool. So I've got the 103rd day, the 271st day, the 51st day, and so on. So I have one row for each day in 2020. Fantastic. Now I want to know the actual date. So to calculate the actual date, I'm going to use another formula. And we're going to call this date. And the formula is going to be start date, so the start date of the year, plus the nth row. I'm on the first row, the second row, the third row, the fifth row. Okay. So we're going to do another date add from the start date. The nth row, so that's the day in the fiscal year. I want to add 5 days, 6 days, 7 day. Now, on the first day of the year, I don't want to add 1 to the FY start date. So I'm going to I want to add 0. So I'm going to do this minus. Let's run the preview. I feel a little bad. I could have opened it up in the formula editor, but hopefully it works. Okay, so the 51st day of the year starting December 30th, 2019 is February 18, 2020. Can I find day 1? Day 1. Perfect. That's why I had to do the minus 1, because if I add 1 to day 30, it would be 31st. No. Here. Wait, what? Oh, September. I was reading January. Yeah, September 2nd is the 248th day of the year starting December 30th. That makes sense. Cool. The last thing we need to do on this stream, or this stream of ETL, is to calculate what fiscal week number we are in. And so I will take FY week num. I can take the day of the year. I'm on the 4th day, the 5th day, the 7th day of the year, and just divide it by 7. So day in fiscal year divided by 7. Now I can't have partial weeks, right? You're always in the 1st, 2nd, or the 3rd week. So I'm going to take the ceiling, which means to round up. So on day 2, 2 divided by 7 is a number less than 1, but it is the 1st week of the year, so I round up. I take the ceiling. The opposite of ceiling is floor, and it's also similar to round, but in this case, ceiling means round. Ha! Looking good. Now, for the use case, for this original problem here, where this user was basing their current date beast mode, they were basing it off of weeks. Well, they were basing it off of months that are defined by weeks. I can tell that by the off, like the 126, 223, 330, 427, right? These are fiscal periods that are defined by either a 445 or a 454. So this, in addition to calculating weeks in my dimension, I also need to calculate this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the period number. Look at this. They go 2019, 2020, next year they're going to have to add another 12 rows for 2021, and Lord help them if they have a typo. This is the value of the date dimension, guys. This is why we do it. Okay. So what do I need to do? What do my instructions say? Define fiscal period and the weeks in each period. Okay. Right. So this next bit here, this is where the business logic is important, right? Do you have 12 periods in a year? Do you operate on a 4-5-4 or a 4-4-5? What do you do in the 13th? What do you do if you have a 53-week year? A lot of that logic will be defined in what we're about to do here. Now, I need a data set that has my fiscal periods. Let's assume that I have 12 months in a year. So I'm going to pull in a data set called numbers, which is an ETL that I wrote that will produce a data set. That's just 0 to a million. I don't need 0 to a million. I'm going to apply. Now, I'm going to filter for the number is less than 12, less than or equal to 12, and greater than or equal to 1. Now, my favorite MySQL consultant, he says, I hate using magic because it's too many clicks. And I agree with you. I don't want to have to create 2 filter rules. So one of the nice things about Magic 2.0 is I can create a formula rule, or maybe I can sneak all of my rules into the same thing. So I will say the number is, what did I say? Less than or equal to 12. Can I do and? And. Number is less. Oh, that's backwards. Number is greater than or equal to 1, and number is less than or equal to 12. Is that good? Does that validate? Ha! So there you go. Unnamed consultant, Brian. So there you go, Brian. I can create one formula rule that does my less than or equal to and my greater than or equal to all in one step. Okay, so that's going to give me 12 rules, 12 rows. Now I'm going to define using a formula with a case statement. Now I'm going to define, do I have a 4-5-4 or a 4-4-5? So what I'm really doing is I'm calculating the number of weeks in, I'm writing months, I should write it as period. I'm going to write month. Pop this open for us, a little nicer to read. So let's assume that I'm running a 4-4-5. So the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th month have the 5 weeks. What I say, 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th, then 5 else 4. I'm running a 4-4-5. And I need an end because I know how to write SQL. What? Case when num is in case when num is in 3, 6, 9, 12, 4, then 5 else. Yeah, I can read. Okay, cool. Let's run that preview, see what that gives us. Guys, if you've made it this far, you've made it through 30 minutes of tutorial and you are a rock star. You are learning how to do Magic 2.0. You're learning how to build a date dimension table. You're learning how to build something valuable for your business. I hope you take this and run with it. And I hope you tell your coworkers about my YouTube channel. And I hope you like and subscribe. And I hope you have a good day. Let's just get through the rest of this. Okay, so here's month 1. Month 1 1 has 4 weeks. Month 2 has 4 weeks. Month 3 has 5 weeks. That's cool. We're on the home stretch. Now, what I need to do is I need to calculate the start and end of each month. Just like previously, I needed to calculate the start and end of each fiscal year. So it's kind of similar, but a little different. The method we're going to use to calculate the end of each month is we're going to use a cumulative sum. A cumulative sum is just another window function. I am really excited about this specific tutorial because in addition to solving a problem that I see in the dojo literally every week, I'm also showing you how to do window functions in Magic, and I'm showing you how to do them in Magic 2.0. So it really just ticks a lot of boxes of, I think, things that people need to see more content in Domo about. If you like what you see, please mention it to your CSM. Say, hey, Jay Wilson is making good content. Maybe you should tell some of your other customers. All right, what did I say we're calculating? The end of the month. Month and we're calculating the month and week. I said it's going to be a cumulative sum. A cumulative sum is calculated by taking the sum of all of the preceding weeks. So in month 3, it ends in week 4 plus 4 plus 5 is 13. To calculate a cumulative sum, we take all of the preceding rows. So we unbounded window preceding, and then 0 rows after the current one. I feel like that was a horrible explanation, but hold on, I'm not done. I need to apply the changes, and then I need to define an explicit sort order. If you're doing a cumulative sum, a lot of the window functions, cumulative sum, rank, row number, they all require you to define a sort order. I'm going to sort by the period, the month number, ascending, no partition. Let's run that preview. Four, 8, 13, 17 should go all the way up to 52. Great. Now I'm going to add another formula to calculate the month start. Formula. It is the month end week minus the number of weeks, the number of weeks in that month plus 1. Why plus 1? Because in month 1, it ends week 4, and there are 4 weeks in that month. If I do 4 minus 4, that's 0. So I need to do plus 1 to start in week 1. I really do prefer zero-based indexing. Another conversation for another week. Haha. Clever? No, nothing. All right. Jeez, Jay. You're such a dork. Love it. Love it. Love it. Here we go. So month 1 starts week 4, ends backwards. Starts week 1, ends 4. Starts 5, ends 8. Starts 9, ends 13, all the way through 48 and 52. Like I said, if you are going to build logic for handling week 53, you might just change your case statement to say for month 12, it goes up to 6, so that this would go up to 53. But every company handles the 53rd week a little differently, so I'm not going to address it here. But like I said, in this stage, in this case statement, is where you would handle that type of logic. At this point, guys, we still have 12 rows, right? 1 row for each period. And I can't join it back to this data set that has 1 row per day. The secret to getting good at ETL and Domo is not to be a genius, although being a genius doesn't hurt. The secret to getting good at Domo is pattern recognition. And up here, we implemented a pattern, right? When we were looking at 1 row per year, and I said I need to join on a between clause, but I can't join on a between clause. So what did we do? We calculated the number of times we wanted to duplicate that row, and then we joined it to our one-to-many table. I'm going to do the exact same here. I can't join on a between clause. So what I need to do is I need to calculate the number of weeks. Sorry, I need to calculate the number of times I want to duplicate this row, and then join it to my one-to-many table. Same pattern, exact same pattern. So I'm going to join this to my one-to-many table. And I need to be careful on my join columns and just make sure I get the right one. The number column on the left is the period number. So month 1, month 2, month 3. I want to join it to the number of weeks in the month because that's how many times I want to duplicate the row. And that, I'm going to join it to the column called join column. They both are of type integer, so that seems to be working fine. Now I can rename my columns. So on the left, the column called number is I'm going to call it the FY month num. On the right, I am going to rename the number column. This is the week of month. So it'll be the first, the second, the third, the fourth week of month 1. It'll be the first, the second, the third, the fourth week of month 2. And then I'm going to drop join column because that column is duplicated. It's the same value as this row. Let's run our preview and take a look. Guys, we are on the home stretch. We're going to be done in 10 minutes or less, so thank you for staying with me. Right now, the granularity of this table is there's 52 rows because there are 52 weeks in a year, right? And as I look at month 1, month 1 has 4 weeks in the month. So I expect this row to be duplicated 4 times, and there's just going to be a different value for the week of month. This is the first week of month 1. Somewhere down here, I'm going to find the second week of month 1. And then further down, I'll find the third week of month 1. What I want to do is I want to calculate, well, which month of the year are we on? Just like I did up here, we calculated, right? We joined to our one-to-many table, and then we calculated the actual date based off of the day in the fiscal year. So we're going to do the exact same thing down here. What we're going to calculate is the FY week number. The week number is based off of the month start week plus the week of month, the first, the second, the third week of month, minus 1, so that when I'm in the first week of the month, subtract 1 so that I don't change the start. Let's run a quick preview. Okay. Let's find. Okay, so here's month 1. It starts in week 1, ends week 4. This is the first iteration of that row, and that's week 1. Let's look at in month, I want to find 12. Why aren't I seeing 12? 12. In month 12 has 5 weeks. It starts week 48, ends week 52. I am on the 5th week of the month, so I take 48 plus 5, 53. Minus 1 is 52. I'm on the 52nd week of the year. Cool. I now can take this data, 1 row per week, and join it to that data, 1 row per day. And I can join it on the week column. Remember, in this data set here, we calculated the week number using the ceiling. So it's a clean, straight join. For those of you who lost the plot, right? The whole reason why we have this one-to-many table is because in Magic 2.0, you cannot join on a between clause. I cannot join on one value is between a start date and an end date. And to work around that problem, we use this one-to-many table to say, hey, I want to duplicate this row. Come with me. Come on. I want to duplicate this row 1 time, 2 times, 12 times. And then I'm going to use the number column as like this countdown so that I can say this is the nth iteration of the row. And it gives me the poor man's between clause. It allows me to do this ETL in Magic instead of forcing me to do this ETL in SQL. And I know my SQL diehards, you're going to be like, SQL till I die, that's way more comfortable. Hey, I'm with you. SQL is comfortable. But what I can do is I can hand this to an end user and I can make them responsible for the parts of the code that they need to change. So like this bit here, how do you handle weeks and months? Change me. Right? I can tell you to hand this to your major Domo. This is the bit of code that you need to maintain. What happens if we want to handle the 13th week, right? Business logic like that, a major Domo can easily maintain because it's really just focused on this thing. If you hand them a wall of SQL code, they may or may not like you. Now, so walls of SQL code are a little bit more challenging to work with, especially a window function in MySQL 5.6. Can't do it. Can't do it. I mean, it can, but it's more. All right, anyway, joining on week number is equal to I think I'm going to throw an error. I throw an error because the data types don't match. Here it's of data type, I want to say decimal. And over here, we have a data type of integer. Anyway, UI is being slow, but I can set my data type explicitly. So I'll say set the join column, which was the FY week number, explicitly equal to type integer. Wow, my laptop is about to take off. It's really chugging through this. Sorry, guys. We'll slow down here. Okay, choose my inputs again. I'm going to fix the left side. I'm going to drop that column FY week number. I think that's the only change I'm going to make in here. And then as my final step, and then we're done, I'm going to pull in a select column as soon as the UI catches up with me. And then just as we validate this, I'm going to put these in a good order. So date, year number, start date, end date. Days in fiscal year, I don't need. The day in fiscal year, I'll keep. Fiscal year month number, I'll keep. The number of weeks in the month, so is this a 445 or not? I'm going to drop that. Month, start, and end week, I'll drop those. And the week of month, I will drop as well. Actually, that's up for debate. You could choose to include those. You could choose to add some additional kind of text columns. So if you wanted to have like FY 2020, P01 for period 1 or something like that, right? You can use your text concatenation to put those together. Definitely build that into this data set because you use it in other places. But let's take a look at what our output is so far. Let me sort by date ascending. Right? That's descending. More time, please. Okay. So December 30th, 2019, December 31st, 2019. These are all part of week number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 days in week 1. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And then I start week number 2. Super easy. This is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh day of the thing. Month number 2 starts on January 27th because I'm using a 445. And let's go to the end and make sure that I actually end on the correct day because that was something that sometimes might trip you up if you got your indexing wrong. According to the year end date, it should end 27/2020, which it does. It's a 52. It's the 52nd week of the year. It's day 364 of month. I'm only showing 1 year, and that's because I still have that filter in place. Obviously, I can go in and remove the filter. Yeah. line it back up, fix the join thing. And we are done. Guys, this has been epic. 50-minute tutorial. You made it through to the end, or maybe you fast forwarded to the end. But congratulations, we're here. We are here. Now, we spent 50 minutes looking at this tutorial because this user has been on this problem for 2 weeks. Let's see how long it took them to get a solution. 2 weeks ago, Grant answered the question, but look how much they had to go back and forth. I said they should implement a date dimension 2 weeks ago. Then they came back on Monday with problems. Guys, do yourself a favor. Take the time, understand the date dimension, even if you don't use it, which you should. Even if you don't choose to use it, understand how it works. Because especially if you have use cases that are built around weeks. If you're just doing months, that's fine. But if you're doing weeks, please, please, please take the time to build a date dimension. It will save you so many hours. Because it's not just one card. It's not just this one beast mode. It's the next beast mode. It's the time when the client, when his boss says, "Hey, I don't trust this. Can you show me what you're doing here?" And he's like, "Yeah, here's my beast mode." What? And then he accidentally fat fingered 928 instead of 929, and now he has to go back and fix all the other cards. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's possible. So do yourself a favor. Take the time to learn to build a date dimension. I do this for literally all of my customers because when I'm doing consulting work, I don't have time to write the same transformation multiple times, and I don't want my client to ever question, Jay, I don't trust this beast mode, but I also can't read it. I'm like, here's this data set. It's built off of these assumptions established here. If you don't trust the assumptions, let's fix it once, and then be confident that it will always work correctly. So that's us. What did we do? We built a beast mode, we built an ETL that would define the start and end of a fiscal year based off of web. We then took that 1 row per year, blew it out to 1 row per day, and we calculated the fiscal week number using the ceiling of day of week divided by 7. We then used another table to generate a list of 12 months, and we calculated the number of weeks in each month, the start of the month start and the week start and the week end. We used the join one. We use that join on that countdown table, my one-to-many table, to create my row duplication. And ultimately, we ended up with a pretty snazzy date dimension. My name's Jay Wilson. I am a freelance consultant through Onyx Reporting. This is what I do. I sleep, dream, eat, Domo ETL. And I try to make content like this useful for you. If you found it useful, please like the video so that it gets shared with other people like you who are Domo developers out there trying to do more with Domo. Also, feel free to let your CSM know about me and the content that I'm creating. Maybe they'll share it with their customers so that their customers can do more with Domo. At the top of my YouTube channel, you can donate and buy me a coffee if you found it useful. But otherwise, reach out to me at jae@onyxreporting.com if you have some other questions or are interested in bringing me into a consulting engagement organization. Thanks so much. Catch you guys later.